We are back on HQ with more breaking news. This in the form of number 3 Duke falling to Clemson. That's what they call a spoiler, but we're going to give you the highlight anyway. Duke, 10.5-point favorites. Pick it up in the early first half, tied at 13. Clemson red hot. Hunter Tyson. That's good chicken. Clemson up 3. Second of back-to-back for Tyson. Later, John Newman, the third, driving to the hoop. Finishes with a monstrous dunk. Take another look. Rim rocking on a Tuesday. Clemson up 3 after the made and one. 2 minutes later, Newman the third to Amir Sims. Sims going to get a good look from the top of the key. Does well with it. Clemson up 7 at that point. Sims had 12 in the first half. Under 5 seconds remaining in the half. Duke down 7. Jordan Goldwire strips, rips, but can't make the lay. Foreboding, if nothing else. Clemson up 9. Second time this season that Duke trailed at the half. Largest halftime deficit this season. Later, Trey Jones to Vernon Carey Jr. Then mid-second half, Duke down by just 2. Amir Sims. That was Vernon Carey throwing it down here off the turnover. Duke with a chance for 3. That's knocked down. And this one was close the whole way, 59-56. Duke with the lead until that one tied it up. Clemson ties the game at 59. Sims strumming his guitar. Late second half, Clemson up 1. Mack to the bucket, got it. Minutes later, Clemson up 5. Sims drive, spins, foul, and the bucket. All the momentum going Clemson's way. They're up 8 after the made and one. Sims had a game-high 25, 9, and 5. Get out on the court and storm it. Clemson, a roller coaster of emotions over the last 24. Licking those football wounds with some good hoop. They upset the Blue Devils 79-72, snapping Duke's 9-game winning streak. They have not beat UNC and Duke in the same season since 95-96. Leading the way for Clemson, as we said, Tevin Mack with 22 points, 9 rebounds. John Newman III adding 14 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists. Duke 15-2 now on the season. Next up, no time to cry. They get number 11 Louisville. Clemson cashes on the money line. Plus 450 in that department. Over hits as well. 133.5 was the number. Here to break it all down and catch our breath, Matt Norlander here. I mean, we talked about it on Sportsline, Matt. This was going to be a tough place to go and win, but we called Duke the most well-equipped team in all of college basketball. I think we can amend that note, perhaps, after a loss to Clemson. What happened in this one? Break it all down.
Yeah, Duke favored by 10.5. Who would have picked them to cover? Wouldn't be me. In this game, what was interesting is one of Duke's biggest weaknesses, and coming into this game, Duke, the only team in college basketball rating top 10 in both offensive and defensive efficiencies, and not even top 10, how about top 5? But the Achilles heel for Duke this season is similar to last season, where they were a bad three-point shooting team. They've gotten better, but year over year, horrible from the foul line. Just shot 50% here. Didn't get enough opportunities at the foul line. That's not the only reason, but there's something that's been bugging me about Duke all season long in terms of its inability to convert foul shots at a high rate. They rate outside the top 200 in college basketball overall. Give credit to Clemson here, though, because I would put more credit to Clemson than blame at the feet of Duke in this particular instance here. Vernon Carey got some of his. Duke isn't at full strength. I don't know if Wendell Moore plays in this game, if Duke wins it or not, but Clemson able to strike hot from 3, shooting nearly 50%. That was a big time deal. Amir Sims coming up big. Tevin Mack, who has the road well traveled here in his 3rd different spot, comes up huge in a spot like this. And then hello, Newman, a 3rd good option for the Tigers there. Tigers are just 9-7. But here they are winning at North Carolina over the weekend, doing that for the first time in program history, getting a win against Duke to get, further above 500. This is a big time, for those who might not be familiar, Brad Brownell's been at Clemson for a decade, only made 2 NCAA tournaments, and I don't know how hot his seat truly is this season or not, but I can promise you that if he were to go on and be sub 500, yeah, that job could be up for debate here. So you get these kind of wins, it stabilizes you, and Brad Brownell carries a reputation for being one of the best guys in that business. So credit to Clemson. You know what? This is their kind of week on the hardwood. I know in football, as you said before, licking the wounds, and I get all that, but credit to them with Duke. If you'll allow me here, my extended thoughts are this. It's a road loss, I get it. And heading into this, I was boasting as much as anyone in the national media that Duke is the best team in college basketball. Now, you take a road loss like this, let's reevaluate some things, and certainly Baylor should be at that conversation, perhaps undefeated San Diego State, et cetera, et cetera. But just because you take a road loss doesn't suddenly mean that Duke is some massive fraud. Remember, although it's a big deal, Duke does not hold that #1 ranking. That is Gonzaga. So winning on the road is tough in league play. This is a Duke team that is still relying on plenty of freshmen. Vernon Carey Jr., been a top 5 player in the sport, just did not quite have enough tonight. And last kind of note here, guys, before you want to keep spinning this forward, this is the latest indication that the ACC is in for a troublesome next 7 weeks. It's going to probably send 4, and it'll be 5 max, and I think it'll be hard-pressed to send 5. The league is just down right now. Duke still factors as the best team in the conference, but a loss like this kind of makes people sit up and open their eyes even wider and say, yeah, look at the ACC. This is not the league we know. It's definitely a dip and is setting up to be one of the 3 worst years in that conference in the past 2 decades.
And for Duke in particular, you say that a loss like this opens up people's eyes. You know, it's not the first time this season that they've had a loss that has opened up the eyes. Certainly, Stephen F. Austin was shocking earlier this season. They run off 9 consecutive wins afterwards, look great. I know you say that you're not that worried about Duke, that this doesn't make Duke a fraud, but does it give you any pause as to what their potential is this season? Or is this such a bizarre season overall that it really can go either way no matter who loses to what team during the regular season?
I lean toward the latter there, in particular with this season. Now, you've got these freshmen, and last season's Duke team was the #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, made the Elite Eight, and lost a classic against Michigan State, and that class was a little bit better, but across the board, you know, the top of the sports, it's just down a little bit this season. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that we're kind of having a wacky season like that. But yeah, the one thing I've always appreciated about college basketball and its fan base and its media, for the most part, is we do not get caught in the knee-jerk, game-by-game reaction cycle that can really afflict NFL and college football coverage. Maybe that's because, you know, the game inventory is so much less. In college basketball, you're looking at 3 times as many games in a given season as its football counterparts. So you take a loss like this, you can assess, listen, it's not a good loss. It's bad. Clemson's 86 in KenPom. This is damaging to the resume. And frankly, because you have this kind of loss, which will be in the vicinity of a quad 2, and then you have a second quad 2 loss for Duke, which was the home loss to Stephen F. Austin. These are the kind of defeats that if Duke cannot rally, it's got Louisville this weekend, that game suddenly takes on a lot of urgency. Then yeah, when we get to the end of the season, because the ACC is here, it's a compound issue. Because the ACC is weak, there are not going to be nearly as many quadrant 1 opportunities for a Duke as there are for Michigan State and Maryland in the Big Ten, where all the teams are good and just every single game practically is a quad 1 opportunity. So this kind of loss has trickle-down effect. So if you're a Duke fan and you're used to having seasons in which you enter Selection Sunday with 27, 29, 31 wins, that's an automatic 1 seed. Really might not be the case this season if Duke taps out at, say, 26 wins, 27 wins, because the ACC is not going to afford it a ton of chances. And now it's going to have 2 losses that are just sticking out like warts, and other teams that are competing for 1 seeds probably won't have that much unappealing defeats overall on the resume. Again, this is just 2, and if they get to Selection Sunday with 3 total losses, they're going to be a 1 seed. I get all that, but perhaps a little bit of a warning sign, but by no means does this mean that Duke's been overrated or not a top 5 team. Even with this loss, Duke will comfortably, in every single predictive metric, I promise you, rate as one of the 3 or 4 best teams in college basketball.
Matt, I will heed your warning. I will refrain for any sort of knee-jerking here, but it does beg the larger question. Spinning it away from Duke and looking at college basketball as a whole right now, this continues to happen. Michigan State comes up empty against Purdue this weekend. Kansas falls to Baylor. Baylor looks like a tough squad. Are they safe on a night-to-night basis? Can we zoom out and look at the last decade or 2 of college basketball? This does seem like an albatross of a season, does it not?
Maybe, but I also don't like to be prisoner of the moment too much here, because I think it's completely reasonable. And because Carolina's down, UCLA's not going to make the NCAA tournament. Indiana's good, not great. Kentucky's not, preternaturally dominant. Because a lot of these big-time schools, UConn's down, Syracuse is not going to make the NCAA tournament almost certainly. Those schools not populating the top 25 are what lead to discussions like this. But that doesn't mean that college basketball is some sport in like dire, profound trouble. No, maybe just Baylor, Butler, San Diego State, Auburn, yes, again, Duke, perhaps even Michigan State, if it can get its act together, can be really, really good teams. Maybe even a couple will wind up being great teams. Baylor has 5 wins over ranked teams right now. And because Baylor's not a year-by-year reliability as a top 15 type of program, I think the general public takes that to mean, oh, this has to be a bad year. It'd be the same thing as if like the Kansas City Royals were the best team in Major League Baseball. It'd be like, well, yeah, it's a down year for baseball. No, you can have an unconventional team be really, really good and not have that mean that your sport is suddenly devoid of serious quality. So there are still good teams at the top. I promise you this, when we get to Selection Sunday, and this has come sooner than we all realize, when you look at the teams on the 1 line, the 2 line, and the 3 line, they're going to be better, be perceived as better, and be predicted to be better than the teams that are even on the 7 line, the 8 line, or the 9 line. It happens every single season. It's going to happen again. We do have some really, really good teams, but if you want to make the critique, it is accurate that the sport is lacking severe powerhouses from recognizable, traditional blue blood type of programs. That's completely accurate. I would not disagree.
Sometimes that makes it more fun, though. And
sign me up for the chaos.
This has been a season that's kept us all on our toes. Matt Norlander, you've been a part of it basically every single night. Thank you again for the coverage here tonight as number 3 Duke goes down to Clemson, 79-72.
Thank you.
Hey, guess what?
What do we got?
Breaking news.
More breaking news?
Always breaking news.
HQ rolls on.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.